Okay, let's see if this is all working. YouTube is a little bit behind. A bit behind. Okay, all working. Okay, I've got data on YouTube. We are good to go. All right, welcome back, everybody. I know it has been a while. I am James. I am a front-end developer of 15 years. We have been interviewing again lately, and recently I was asked to make a ToDo app, but using styled components, and I don't have any experience in styled components, so I thought let's take a look and learn it. So over here, I just have a Vite app set up instead of Create React app for once. And then I have just gone in and changed this to JSX so that we have a basic app here. And you'll see that it does hot module replacement. And we've just got an application here. And so let's take a look at styled components. So the cool option with styled components is that it is CSS in JavaScript. So you see here, we've got a button, and then here are all your styles. And then you've got some functionality for props. I did go ahead and look at this a little bit beforehand, but let's just go through all of this. So you don't have any class name bugs is a big advantage of something that you're going to get here. You know exactly where you're going to be going for your changing your styles. It's pretty dynamic because it's got all this function input, just like something like Sass would. And you've got automatic vendor prefixing, so you can just use the basic like box model, box shadow and stuff, and you'll get all of the vendor resolutions and stuff. So I've already done the npm install for styled components. Actually, I'm using Yarn because doing the npm is actually failing. So I've switched over to Yarn because npm doesn't really have any staff right now, apparently. Okay, so let's go through their getting started. Let's see if we can get this to go here. And so what happens here is that you're essentially making what styled components does is creates a component for you. So when I go ahead in here and say wrapper, I've made a component, right? And this component doesn't exist. So wrapper is not defined. So now above our function here, I can create a new constant and call it wrapper. And I'm going to say that this is a styled component. And then after here, I'm going to tell it what kind of HTML tag I want to be. So here's all of the HTML tags that are popping up in the thing here, or in the IntelliSense. So I'm going to go div, and then the special syntax here for styled components is the backtick. And then I'm going to put my semicolon in here. And then here I can go background, color, and let's just go with our favorite 666, a nice dark gray, and pop back over to our application. Some words in here. And there we go. We have a wrapper that has words. Now, let's go through and find, let's go with like styled components, resets, CSS. Let's just make sure that we've got everything, not reuse, reset. Let's get, ooh, they have a whole component called styled reset. I had saw someone actually do a root. Oh, that's the same one, but in the GitHub. No, that's also the same one. Seems that this is the popular one. That's also not what we want. Well, let's just try and write our own little resets, shall we? So let's go to the main JS here. Styled components root reset. I think that's might be what we're looking for. Yeah, here we go. This is what I was looking for. Global style. Okay, so we have this function called create global style in the styled components. So let's actually take a look at that. Create global style. V4. Sounds like we might want to use theme provider instead. Oh, they have a whole section on TypeScript. I will mention that I'm not doing this in TypeScript because I was having trouble in my initial learning of this. Styled is our button. Tag template literal, style components with component, and we are looking for. Okay, so it looks like what we can do here is make a new const of global styles. And they had a special syntax here. We need to import create global style from styled components. Whoops, that went and clean that up on us. We didn't want to do that. And we're going to go create global style. And then we're going to go ahead and, oh, we've got a really messed up. Oh, we're missing our closing and our backtick. There we go. Now we're all nice and cleaned up. And we're going to insert our global style component. Whoops, global style component. Okay, so now we should have a nice reset where our page is shoved up in the corner. Perfect. Let's just check and make sure that we have everything in here done accordingly. And oh, okay, here's the documentation. To generate a special style component that handles global styles. Normally, style components are automatically scoped to local CSS class and therefore isolated from other components, which means they're given custom classes. In this case, create global style, the limitation is removed, and things like CSS resets or base style sheets can be applied. And so we can apply body, colors, etc. Since global style is a style component, that means it also needs the theming from the theme provider component, which is the other thing we'll take a look at later. Okay, so let's do React reset CSS. I would love to use normalize. Actually, let's see if we can do style components normalize CSS. Style normalize. The original normalize CSS is pulled from new local normalize and parsed into styled ready format. Started by the commerce for v4. So this is the same idea as what we just created. Also, you can use create global API. You can continue writing global styles here. Oh, very cool. That looks handy, so let's go ahead and install that. Over here is my server, and over here is my thing here. So we're going to go yarn add. What's the name of the package? File normalize. Fast refresh only works when a file has exports. Move your components to separate file. I'm going to, oh, there was the yarn command right there. Import our normalize. And we're going to switch this to normalize. And we're going to get rid of this. And now we should have the exact same effect, except we have an error. Failed to resolve import style normalize from source main. Does the file exist? Oh, because we did a yarn install, I probably have to restart the server. Done with warnings. What was the warning? Oh, it looks like we're actually out of date. Possibly. There we go. We're back to normal. Okay, so now that we're back to normal, let's do what it had suggested for, we don't need a million things open. Let's do this version as well so that we can actually do some base styles. So let's import the create global style again. And that export is actually going to help. And instead of normalize, we're going to do our global style and body. So now our body should be, by normalize, did you mean normalize? I did mean normalize. See, that's what happens when you copy paste from the internet. Oh, right. It wanted us to make this in a styles folder, which is related to what we saw a couple of minutes ago, where it wanted us to be in a different folder. So we're just going to take that out. We're going to save, and we're going to create a new file called styles dot, what do we call these? Are these TS files? JS files. Source. Actually, I think we want to be a new folder. Styles file index.js. It said we're going to keep on JSX. We import our normalize. Normalize, and then we're going to import our global style. In our main file, for our global styles, loaded. Okay, so now we still have errors. Global style exists here. Create global style. Continue writing global styles here. Normalize, importing, normalize, normalize. Styles, components, styles, components. Styles and index.js. Oh, this is using create root, which might be an issue. Well, why don't we go and do it this way? Actually, the previous way that we had. Let's make sure normalize is working first. Normalize and normalize. Okay, normalize is working. Now let's create some global styles. Why don't we go and do that in our app? Because our app will be our main spot. Main. Import. I want the global styles. Again. Then we can create our styles, and we don't need to use normalize. We can just have both of them, I believe. Let's just make sure this is working before we do anything further. There we go. Okay, so now, oh, I don't need my calculator. So now let's give this, let's go 999, I think. No, that's too light. Let's go darker. 333. Yeah, that's a nice dark color for us. Okay, so now let's get rid of that because we're not using it. And we're not using our index anymore, and we're done with our app. And now we have a wrapper. Now our wrapper. Actually, let's take a look at Flexbox. Because that's also something I need to get more familiar with. Flexbox layout. Okay, that's just background on what Flexbox is. And not a single property. It involves a lot of things, including, okay, so this is Flexbox, of course, is a new box model. So we got our main size, our cross size is what it said there, our main axis and our cross axis, items and a container. Yep. We have a container with X, all this lovely stuff in it. Wrap, flex, ooh, justify. Oh, I like how it's got all of these nice little. So I guess let's set our wrapper to display flex. And let's get a little bit of HTML in here. So let's say, if we're going to do a to-do list, let's say we've got a input, type equals checkbox, and then we're going to convert this to ID equals to do one. And then we're going to need a label for actually in HTML for to do one because we are in React. And this says to do one. And need to spell label correctly, which is what that blue underscore is. So that's CS spell inside of here. Let's see, do we have, okay, to do one, and we can click and check. Okay, so let's have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to-dos. 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3. We could count. Whoops. Just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Good, good, good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we've got a list of to-dos. Let's get like a headline in here. Let's go like H4 to-dos. Okay. Make these, wrap each of these to-dos so that they are block elements. Let's copy the autocomplete. And then prettyify will make it nice and pretty for us. Ta-da, ta-da. Oh, now we're using normalized, so our divs aren't blocks right now. So we have our to-dos, and then get another section here. We're using H4s, I guess. Add to-do. And then I'm going to input type equals text. Equals to input. Placeholder equals add to do. Single one, and then we're going to need a button type of submit. And I'm going to say add you. And then let's also just wrap this in a form. There we go. We've got an add to do, a to do button, a list of to dos. We have some actual stuff that we can try and style now. Okay, so our wrapper is Flex. And so let's take a look at some of these containers. Align content. So I want to like put this all in a little thing in the middle of the page. So let's see how we could do that. Which one of these examples looks? We have a container. Take a look at what our container is doing. ID of root. Here's our special class here with our display flex. So here's all of our items in our flex container. So it has gone and put all of our items all of our divs as items and flex them out instead of block. If it was block, it would look like that, which is what I was expecting, but we said display flex. So we set our container to display flex. Now I want my wrapper, let's say this to be, let's see if styled components has any width properties. Style components. Theming, function themes, anything without styled components. Just wondering if there's something like Tailwind or anything like that, or any kind of mathematical operations you can do. Be like, I want you to be a quarter of the screen. Now, I wonder if Flexbox can do that either. Tell it the width. I believe it just shrinks automatically. So let's set this to 320 pixels. Okay, and it's shrunk everything automatically. Here's our flex. So let's see, we can do justify content into the center. Just take a look at what all these different flex options do. And we also have, it said align content, which doesn't do anything for us because we want move flex grow. Flex direction, we want our default direction. Properties for parents. We have our container, we have our direction. Yes, we want, okay, so let's just get explicit. Let's tell it our direction is oh, we could do columns, I guess. Container justify content. I have no idea what I'm doing with Flexbox here. I should have probably learned Flexbox first. Display flex, flex flow, row wrap. When we define the flow direction and if we allow the items to wrap, remember this is the same as flex direction row, flex wrap, wrap. Define how it is distributed in space. Okay, so we don't actually need this. We're just going to do one column. So let's go with a block for now. Go back to block. There we go. To-dos. This is our block. I want to center it in the middle of the page, which we would do with margin 0 auto. There we go. Centered in the middle of the page. I'm going to do a background. A lighter color. Make sure that our font is readable color. There we go. Let's give it some space. No, we want 10 pixels on each side. Actually, let's go 12. And let's do a border radius, 5 pixels. Let's have a nice, perfect. And then we said 0 auto, because I actually want you to go maybe 25 pixels from the top. There we go. To-dos. Done, done, done. Now let's do that global style because we also want our font family. Ooh. What's nice about styled components here is that you don't have to relearn CSS. This is still the same. It's not CSS in JS. It's all of the different fonts in there. Okay, and now we're back to something a little bit more legible. Go with maybe an H3 instead here. Let's have an H2 up in here. It says style component ToDo App. It's the most important thing on the page. So let's make sure we're doing semantics. Oops, cancel, save. There we go. Style component ToDo Apps. Second most important information on the page and of equal importance. Use, there we go, add to do. Okay. So now let's style this stuff. So let's, instead of this being an H1, let's go const title, call it title, equals to styled component, and we're going to be in H1. And I don't want you to be bold. I just want you to be big. We're going to go normal instead. And we're going to set it to a color of, let's call it title. And now instead of H1, we go in here and we say no. Instead, we're going to go with a title component. There we go. We have a title component. Take a look at this, and it sputtered out as an H1 with a class. Okay, so let's do a subtitle component. H2. I also don't want it to be bold, so let's go with font weight normal. And let's actually say that our subtitles will be something a little bit more special. Now we actually have to tell it to render subtitle. And we'll just do the one for now. And so you see we've got Arial thin here instead. So we have our subtitle with our class, and then our older one, it's still the same. So now let's apply that to here as well. Subtitle. Subtitle. There we go. We have our new H2 with its own classes. And let's see, is this sharing the exact same class? Yes, because these are the exact same thing, it is sharing the exact same class. So it's going to reuse the classes. So that's good for us there. Okay, so let's take a look at something a little bit more complex, our input. So const input, we'll make a new input. Actually, let's just make this a checkbox. Make this really, okay, this is a checkbox. And it's going to be a styled input. Let's just give this a color of red for now. I'll say checkbox. And so we get nothing. We get an error, which is good because I didn't expect that to work. Checkbox, because we just did styled input, and anything that we pass here will be our props that are available into us here. But so this is an input, and we want the input to have the attributes of, I believe this is the syntax. Styled components, Coming from CSS. Oops, from CSS. Nope, let's go with, I saw the syntax earlier somewhere, or attributes. Because this what this is going to do is, because style components is creating the input, actually we gave it a label. Actually, it is creating the input. Let's give this some padding. Oh, and actually just take this back off for a second. Yeah, see, it's given it the class and it gave it the padding. However, it's just not showing up very well. But it is working. But instead of having to put a type of checkbox on there, so if I get rid of type of checkbox, we'll see what happens here. We get an input here with a bunch of padding on it. So I want to tell it to render, instead of telling it down here to render a checkbox, because I already told it it's a checkbox, why write type checkbox, right? I want to tell it to create an input with the type of checkbox. So I say the attributes. And then it wants, I believe, this syntax. I say type of checkbox. There we go. Now we made a checkbox again. Let's go ahead and change all of these inputs to checkboxes. And get rid of the checkbox code. We're going to keep our ID because we need our label to be attached properly by the ID. Inspect, and each one of these checkboxes has a class. I haven't styled a checkbox in forever, so I don't want a custom one. I just want to see a nice little checkbox here. These are all custom ones. I just want to see what someone has done with the actual checkbox. That's cute. But yeah, this does our befores and our afters. Really just want the most basic of styling for a checkbox. I forget what we can actually do to a checkbox. So actually, let's just do it in our styles here. So let's see, can we change the border? Blue. Well, red. No. Let styles work on checkbox. Don't want to use pseudo selectors. Actually, let's look at that. That's exactly what I want right there. That checkbox. That's the label, and here's the input. I set a background, border, Let's try and take a look at that. Well, first off, let's make this bigger. No. Hey, there we go. We got a width going on here. So that makes our width of the box area bigger. So this did nothing, this did nothing, this did nothing. So we can go with widths. Background. Blue. Does nothing. Border does absolutely nothing. Wow. Maybe which reminds me why no one uses checkboxes anymore. Okay, well, then let's move on to the label then, shall we? If there is nothing we can do on the checkbox. But it is now a checkbox, and let's give it a width of 25 pixels because that looks better. Because it at least spaces out the to-do spot there. And let's make it square. Oh, well, we can actually do that at least. Made it bigger. And let's see, can we add some padding onto the right side to give it some space? No, of course not. What about margin instead of padding? That we can do. There we go. So we've got to do 1, to do 2, to do 3, to do 4, to do 5. A nice big blue checkbox. And we change the border. No. Why is there not a literal list of what you can use on the checkbox and what you cannot? This is, yeah, literally everyone is like, hey, use a custom checkbox instead. Okay, fine. We'll come back to using a custom checkbox later. Let's go on to the label. Now, the label, I also want to have a done prop. This is the interesting, cool part. So first, let's make our to-do item. Styled. It needs to be a label. And we need to change its font size to match our lovely new large item. So let's do to-do item, to-do item. There we go. So our to-do matches there. We need it to, we need some, got a weird baseline stuff going on here. You see how these don't even line up. Take that margin off there for a second. Okay, so it does at least have the proper one, but I want this to line up a little bit. So let's say margin top. Let's see, maybe 6 pixels. I wonder if this would be a good option for Flex, actually. So let's make a const to do container. We are using wrapper, so let's use wrapper. So it's a styled div that we're going to set to flex. Oops, flex. And we're now going to make this a to-do wrapper. And we're going to copy and paste that. And we're going to inspect here. And yes, that made our to-dos look much prettier. There we go. Okay, so now let's copy this code here. Whoopsies. One to do, two to dos. Let's just go with three to dos for now because we got to go do all of this copy paste over and over and over again. Three, and you're not going to be done. Okay, to do 1, 2, and 3. All right, so now we want to do some cool stuff with done. So I want a text decoration of line through. Let's just make sure that this works. Okay, this is line through. Now we only want this to go on the state of done. So what we do is we ask to use we get our props and then style components with props, adapting based on props. So we grab our props and then we look for the prop. So it looks like we could actually destructure. So why don't I look for done? Props at then. And I'm gonna go true. It should just be, yeah, let's do it their way first before we, so grab all of our props, run a function on the props. If the props.done, the Boolean, so it's true. Props.done, turn array. So if true, line through. This needs to be in quotes. Else normal. And we'll get this done here. So now we have an error in the syntax here. Props.done. Props, fat arrow, props. Oh, it's not $sign props. Oh, because I have put the prop on it. It's not doing true and false. I want props. This props.done. This is the value of true. If I take this prop off of here, this is just if the prop exists. So I could just do like this. And then it only exists on one. But how do I access the value? See that it did it this here. Now the $sign they said means that it won't render to the DOM. So you'll see here when I inspect here, it says to do class, to do 1, Well, I don't see it rendered to the DOM in the first place. It says if I do the $sign, and so if I say $props instead, we get the same result. Receive true for non-Boolean attribute done. Instead of pass a string instead of done, or done value to string for label. Okay, yeah. So that error was from before. So actually, let's go back and get that error and see what it tells us about. I think that's actually part of the problem we had, was that we evaluated to a string. Received true for a non-Boolean attribute done. If you want to write it to the DOM, pass a string instead of done instead. Done true or done value.toString. Oh, if you want to put it in the DOM, pass it as a string. Okay. Let's put it in the DOM as a string, see what happens. And we no longer get that error, but we have this problem where done is true and done is false, whereas props here is done and done. So what this is doing, this is a JSX syntax. We're going to say grab the props, props.done. If props.done equals true. Can I do that? We can. Okay, so it's just a regular function inside of there. And now you see done equals true is rendered here, and done equals false is rendered here. Okay, so now we have no need for that to be in the DOM. We don't need it in the DOM. So now we're going to go back to the previous syntax that it suggests of the $sign, because the $sign does not render it to the DOM. There we go. So now we have to do is done. Checked. There we go, because it is set to done. So let's just grab a state here. Const done, set done equals state. And we're going to set this to false. Start. We're going to import state from React. Use state from React, and done is false. So now we're going to go in here and we're just going to say done. I forget my JSX syntax. JSX syntax check state. It's going to be squirrely brace done. That's what I want. Yeah. Oh, it's there we go. That's what I'm going to want. Once done, Boolean, triple dots expected. Why are you expecting triple dots? What does it say in my error? Oh, the exact same error. Oh, is this supposed to be a double curly brace? Is that why? Title. User.avatar, yeah. No, this is what I want. I want it to do. This is why I hate live coding. Oh, we also have the old and new. Good old documentation. Const name. Const. Why are you expecting it to be spread? And then just get back to normal for a second. Shouldn't be checked. Correct. Okay. I want done, which is currently false. If it's true, it should render checked. React render prop based on state. No, not that kind of render. React render attribute based on state. Ah, I have it the other way around. Okay. So checked equal to the value of done. However, how would I do that here? I would have to render this as well. Done. I wonder if I can add, if I can do done like this. So this should be false. And it is false. So now to do, let's go on click, render, render a function. That does set done to true. There we go. Now we actually want it to do set done to the opposite of done. I want to do a toggle instead. Set done to opposite of done. There we go. Yeah, we don't have that logic on each one of these. Now, obviously, this is going to be an array later. But now we have we're using all of the same props, so that's expected because we're using the same value for each one instead of having a little logic in there. All right, so we have managed to create a wrapper, a title, a subtitle, a to-do wrapper, a checkbox with our style, with our attributes and our label, and we've done props. So we have done a lot of what we can do with styled props. The rest of this is a to-do application, which there are plenty of tutorials out there, so we're not going to go into that today. So thanks for watching me struggle through learning styled components and a little bit of Flexbox there. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll tune in next